Hey y'all, Bite Size Bible in a Year chronological edition for April 6th and 7th. So over the weekend we read, what did we read? Judges 19 and 20 and Ruth 1 through 4 something, 4:12 I think. I didn't write it down, sorry. Okay, so as we're coming to the end of Judges, which yay, we finished another book. Proud of us. We get to the end of Judges and we see war break out between the tribe of Benjamin and the other 11 tribes for what happened in one of their cities with the Levite and his concubine. Side note, he was not even supposed to have a concubine. Nobody was. But anyway, he had this concubine, treated her atrociously. Like, I cannot believe that something awful didn't happen to him too. But he treats her atrociously and then she dies because of his action and he gets enraged and then chops her up into 12 pieces. And you might be thinking, what? Why did he have to do that and send her body parts to the 12 tribes? Well, he was trying to incite all of Israel to unite and come together and make this wrong right. What happened to him, basically. He doesn't really, I don't think he really cares about the concubine. What happened to him, it was wrong. And so they do. They unite. They decide. They come to God. God says, yes, Judah goes first, and y'all will take and go into war with the tribe of Benjamin. They do that, and then they're defeated. They do it again because God tells them to, and they're defeated. And so I was thinking, you told them to go, so why are they being defeated? And I wonder if the answer lies in chapter 20, 26 through 28. It says, then all the Israelites went up to Bethel and wept in the presence of the Lord and fasted until evening. They also brought burnt offerings and peace offerings to the Lord. The Israelites went up seeking direction from the Lord. In those days, the Ark of the Covenant of God was in Bethel, and Phinehas, son of Eleazar and grandson of Aaron, was the priest. The Israelites asked the Lord, should we fight against our relatives from Benjamin again, or should we stop? The Lord said, go, which is what he had said the last 2 times, but then he added on this time, tomorrow I will hand them over to you. So I'm wondering if he let them face those 2 defeats to get them back into a place of complete dependence and obedience. You'll notice they fasted, they prayed, and they presented all their offerings like they're supposed to do, and then victory came. So I was just wondering, that might have been why he let them face defeat, which is why he always lets the Israelites face defeat, was to bring them back to him. Then we see the end of Judges and the whole loophole. You know, they wanted to provide, they felt bad for Benjamin, and they wanted to provide them with wives, so they find this loophole in the law and go about it all in the wrong way. It's just gross. And the last thing that Judges says is that in those days, Israel had no king. All the people did whatever seemed right in their own eyes. And I don't know if you noticed, but our reading also started out that way. Judges 19:1 is, now in those days, Israel had no king. So just highlighting that really it was a dark, confusing time for Israel. They were just doing whatever seemed right. And he keeps pointing out, they had no king, so they needed a king, and their king was supposed to be God. And when they would follow God, we've seen it over and over again, when they would follow God, blessings. When they would not follow God, not so much. It's the same with us. We need a king too, and our king needs to be God. You know, so he can show us where we're gonna go, where we need to go, what's right, not just what seems right, but what is actually right. You know, because we are prone to wander. We're prone to react out of fear or anger or selfishness or even logic. We're prone to fall for temptation or pride or any of that. And we have about this much knowledge and experience compared to the God of the universe, who is like outside of the constraints of time. And so I would much rather depend on him and ask him for guidance and go, what's right, then, well, this seems right to me. So we need that king too. Okay, and then we get to move on to Ruth. Now, Ruth, the events that happened in Ruth were during the time of the Judges. They think around the same time as what was going on with Gideon was going on. So it's such a contrast that these things could have been going on at the same time. They probably were going on at the same time, and there was such disobedience and darkness in some areas. And this area, it's just so refreshing that against that dark backdrop, we see people, they were real people, acting over and over again faithfully. We see Naomi, who was deep in the midst of grief. I'm wondering if they were even supposed to have left Israel, but she came back to Israel with Ruth. And even though she's deep in grief, she keeps talking about how God is the one who did this to her. God is the one who let this all happen. So she sees that God is in control. She's angry, she's bitter, but she's not letting go. She still is hanging on to God, even when she doesn't understand what he's doing. And then when Boaz starts to act favorably toward her family, she says, the Lord bless him. And you can see her start to trust God a little bit more. And so even though her faith kind of looks like this, she never just says, well, there is no God. So it's just a little bit of a picture of somebody who is walking with the Lord, but is going through a season of doubt or darkness or anger. Our job when we're going through those times, like we've talked about before, is just to not let go. Keep trucking with God. Have that persistent love for him. Then we see Ruth. She leaves an idolatrous Moab to come to Israel and be with Naomi. And then she also says she's going to worship the one true God. So she completely starts acting in accordance to the law of the Israelites. She follows the Israelite law, and she does all the things that they're doing. And so, and even though she's not an Israelite, she's welcomed in. And we see that with Naomi, we see that with Boaz. She's welcomed. And so that's just a little picture of God and his welcoming love too. No matter who we are, God is welcoming us in. Doesn't matter what we've done or who we are. God is always wanting us to be with him. So we see her, Ruth, acting in faith. And then we see Boaz. I mean, isn't he a beautiful picture of what Christ did for us on the cross? Ruth, left without someone to take care of her in that culture, and Naomi would have been destitute. But man, Boaz comes in and protects her. He provides for her abundantly. He says, you're going to be, he purchases her. He redeems her or purchases her back. And makes her one of his family. She belongs to him. And it's the same for us with Jesus. When he bought us back on the cross, we now belong with him and to him, and he protects us and he guides us and he loves us. And so I love watching Boaz and what he does. He's so kind and tender because he's such a beautiful picture of Christ and his tender love toward us. So we get to contrast the darkness and the disobedience of the actions in Judges and the light and the obedience and the joy that we find and the faithfulness that we find in Ruth. And so that's the difference a lot of times between walking with God and not walking with God. So walking with God, we see over what we've read, there's blessing. And when we're not walking with him, we see in Judges, there's just cursing and bad thing after bad thing and this emptiness. Or walking with God, we see peace, we see provision. Not walking with God, it's just turmoil and emptiness and famine. And so on those days when we feel like giving up, or on those days when we feel like, is what I'm doing does it even matter? Yes, it does. This is the kind of difference that life with God can make. So keep going, keep pressing on. It is making a difference. You are gaining more and more freedom every day, more joy, more peace. God is working. Don't doubt that. Okay, so today's reading, April 8th, is, okay, you're going to have to write this down if you don't have the Bible. It's Ruth 4:13 through 22. 1 Chronicles 2:9 through 55. Also 1 Chronicles 4. And 1 Samuel 1:1 through 8. So all of those are around the same time, so they're all going together. So you're going to have to back up the video if you want to see those again. Okay, so we will talk about that tomorrow. Bye.